The movie is called Enemy at the Gates, and that was the first time I had ever seen a metal cigarette case. I just thought it was neat, and I have never actually seen someone use one until recently. A couple years ago, I saw someone pull out a metal case with cigarettes in it, and nearly couldn't believe it. So when I started designing a puzzle, I thought it would be cool for it to resemble an old-style cigarette case, hence the name Sigrit. I just like playing on words and spellings, so that's why the name and the weird spelling of Sigrit. Anyway, it ended up looking a lot bigger than a normal cigarette case would be, and that's just because I had to fit the mechanism in it and make the parts big enough to actually make a mechanism. That would be tricky. But that's okay, you can still put cigarettes in it if you want. As for the finishing look of the whole trick box, I kept some of the machined finishes because I personally like the looks of it. Seeing the toolpaths in metal just give more of a cool, artsy, rugged look, whereas the top and bottom of the main case I gave a brushed look with sandpaper. It took forever to get all of those sanded, but it looks okay. Here you can see the case before it gets the brushed look. That's just the facing cutter that gave it that shiny finish, but I couldn't leave it like that. So you just saw one side of the case, and now this is the second side of the case. And I would do a first and second operation at one time, and I would pull a finished one off every 10 to 12 minutes. In the case of the first side case, I had 2 extra operations with that, so it was a little bit more involved. Making trick boxes and other puzzly type products is more of a side gig for me. I just do it when I have time, and it's fun to break up the monotony of the main products that I make and sell, which are branding irons. With that, I will never plan to produce a whole bunch of these puzzle type products. The Sigrit box in particular won't have more than 55 ever made, plus 1 prototype that I'm keeping. The final look of this puzzle is still very plain. There's no design on the outside of the case, it's just smooth, brushed look, and it's that way on purpose. To me, there's an added mysteriousness to seeing something plain like this. For example, if it's just sitting on a table, I had hopes that it would give off an alluring vibe so that anyone that walked by would want to pick it up just to see what it's all about. As for the difficulty of the puzzle and how to solve it, I might give it a 2 out of 5 maximum difficulty if you're on a Mr. Puzzle scale. My intent is not to make a super difficult puzzle or trick box. I fell in love with the original early style trick boxes. They aren't difficult to open once you know how to do it, plus they can serve a purpose if you so choose. Here I'm making the fixture for the brass buttons. I had to throw in some brass. I love the contrasting look between the aluminum and the brass. It just makes for a fun look. Using 3D printed parts was a fun challenge in itself. I had to adjust a few things to get everything in working order, and then even after I had my prototype done and working, the first produced puzzle didn't work as planned. So I had to go back and make small design adjustments within the 3D printed parts to make everything work properly. $300, $400 a month, dollars, but that's pure profit.
Yeah, I mean,
Because he said
yeah, that's pretty good piece of money, really.
I love these hinges because they're so discreet and they were everything I was looking for when I was thinking of making this trick box. They're called barrel hinges and they were tough to find decent quality hinges, and even the ones that I did find that are in the trick boxes now aren't perfect, but they work, and that's the main thing. I was a little bit nervous using 3D printed parts because I didn't want anything to just break if you were just to pry on it a little bit. So that was kind of what I was doing here. I'm prying on it quite hard to see if anything would break, and it just won't. I can't imagine anyone wanting to pry any harder than that to try and get it open without actually trying to solve it correctly. So there you have it, a little behind the scenes of how the Sigrit trick box was created and a little bit of the philosophy behind it. And I think that's it for now, so thanks for watching.